Today we're talking Murdaugh. We've got new information from the prosecutors. We've got a new press conference from the defense, and courthouse Becky got herself sued. Let's get going. Now that Alex Murdaugh is getting a new trial, prosecutors may pursue the death penalty. I don't see this going well. The South Carolina Supreme Court ordered a new trial on May 13th after unanimously finding that former Colton County Clerk of Court Becky Hill improperly influenced jurors during Murdaugh's original trial in 2023. Can you believe it's been 3 years, law nerds? It feels like it's been a million years and 5 seconds all at the same time. After Alex Murdaugh's double murder conviction was overturned, a South Carolina prosecutor says he may seek the death penalty as the case heads towards a new trial. Quote, "In light of the Supreme Court's decision, we're back to square one on this case. And that means all of our legal options are on the table, including the death penalty," South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson said in a statement shared with People on Monday, May 18th. His statement was first shared with NBC News on Friday, May 15th. Wilson subsequently announced that his office would, quote, "aggressively seek to retry Alex Murdaugh for the murders of Maggie and Paul as soon as possible." Quote, "Our justice system provides, indeed demands, that every person is entitled to a fair trial, which includes an impartial jury untainted by external forces bent on influencing the jury toward a biased verdict," the justices wrote in their opinion, referencing Hill's comments. Hill also pled guilty in December 2025 for perjury. Right. I do not think casually throwing out there, well, everything's on the table, goes well.
The Attorney General has announced he's considering the death penalty in this case. Clearly, he is not talking to the lawyers in his office. He's probably talking to his political consultants who thought that was a good soundbite for his governor's campaign. The law is clear that he cannot seek the death penalty if it is due to vindictive prosecution. That is, and here's the question, what does he know today he didn't know 5 years ago?
That's my question too.
Why is he?
That's my question too. What has changed between the first prosecution and now? That's my question too. Truly, what has changed?
He's saying he's going to seek the death penalty. Is there some new piece of evidence? So we're a little sick and tired, and we've seen this process since the beginning of this case, where Alan Wilson plays politics as opposed to playing prosecutor. Coincidentally, he has not looked into the attempted jury tampering of Becky Hill. We're going to talk about a civil suit in a minute, but clearly the statute says whoever tampers with a jury or attempts to tamper with a jury is guilty of a crime. Now, having gotten that out of my system, let me turn this over to Jim Griffin, who's going to talk about the lawsuit that was filed this morning, and then Phil Barber and he and I will answer questions. Jim?
Yeah, good morning. Today in United States District Court, federal court, the Charleston Division, we filed a lawsuit.
I love that the birds are just birding.
Lawsuit on behalf of Richard Alexander Murdaugh Sr. versus Rebecca Hill. In this lawsuit, we file it under the Federal Civil Rights Statute, 42 United States Code 1983, to redress constitutional deprivation of rights. Those rights were Alex's right to a fair trial, a right that him be tried before an untampered, untainted jury with the South Carolina Supreme Court's.
The word he's looking for is impartial, but that's what the South Carolina Supreme Court said. You have the constitutional right to a fair trial. That includes an impartial jury.
Ruling, it has been adjudged as a matter of state law that she deprived Alec of his constitutional rights, deprived him of a right to a fair trial, and as a result, we've got to do it all over again, which nobody wants to do. The damages that we've alleged include the over $600,000 that was spent to try the first case and other compensatory damages. Now, let me be clear.
I'm waiting for the taxpayer, like a taxpayer coalition, to also sue her on behalf of the taxpayers. I'm waiting to see if that happens. I don't even know if that can happen. I'm real curious.
Alex Murdaugh owes a lot of people a lot of money. None of this money that is recovered will go to him personally. And the purpose of this lawsuit is to hold Becky Hill accountable for what she did.
Yeah.
She has not been held account at all for her conduct. And two is to investigate exactly what she did, which we'll be able to do through the course of civil litigation. We have subpoena power. We can take
Discovery.
depositions. And so we're going to be able to understand the entire scope of her conduct. She's yet to be thoroughly investigated by the state, and she's not been held accountable by the state.
The jury process, the integrity of the jury process was violated by somebody sworn to uphold it. And that's why we're here today, and that cannot go unanswered, as Jim said.
Save
and that's
us,
what we're going to
Barber.
do with this lawsuit. Beyond that, we've alleged $600,000 in damages. That's a public number, by the way. There was a receivership. That money was allocated from a receivership for the defense. That was a waste because of what Becky Hill did, plus other damages alleged. And beyond that, we are going to find out exactly what happened. There will be depositions, there will be subpoenas, and she will be held to account for her actions.
Any questions?
Have you talked to Alec recently? How does he feel about the overturn?
Jim talked to him this morning.
Yeah, we've talked to Alec a lot lately about many topics, including retrial and what that might look like. But to your specific question,
They would have to have talked to him recently. They decided to file a new whole ass lawsuit. They have to talk to him.
frankly, when we reported back to him after our argument in the South Carolina Supreme Court, we told him it went as well as we could have hoped, and that we were very optimistic that we would get a favorable result.
I think that was
And he
reasonable
appreciated
to
our
be
assessment, but he
very optimistic on that.
he was incredulous. His experience has been, since he has been on the back end of civil lawsuits and criminal indictments, that he's lost every significant legal ruling along the way, and that occurred almost daily during the trial. And when he got the order, when I spoke with him, he had already read the opinion of the Supreme Court, and he says, "I'm reading it, I see it, it says reverse, but I still have a hard time believing it. It's really just sinking in." But he was very grateful and very thankful, and he thanked all of us. He told me very early that he deserves to be in jail, prison, for the financial crimes that he committed. But he says, being in jail for something you didn't do is a hard thing to swallow, even though I'm here doing time for what I did do.
Doing time.
But then he said, what I was convicted of is so reprehensible, and something that is so heinous, and to be wrongfully convicted of that is almost unbearable, he says. And so he is very thankful that he is no longer a convicted murderer of his wife and son, and he
For now.
he's appreciative to the court
For now.
for applying the rule of law, regardless of outcome. They did their job, and we're all very appreciative of that. The rule of law won out last week.
I don't disagree with that either. I don't disagree with that. I think that given what Becky Hill did, this was the only just and fair result.
With the civil suit, are you hoping to get your hands on the SLED investigation into the jury tampering allegations by Becky Hill?
Sure. Now, we were given some information through the discovery during the motion for new trial stage. Is that all they've done? We don't know. But if that is all they've done, that really wasn't much of an investigation. And we really don't think they've done much of an investigation.
Oh, boy.
But we certainly plan to.
And let me say this. There's also was a Freedom of Information Act served on SWED to get additional information. We've seen that too. Does it make sense to have the agency who has an inherent conflict, they want the conviction sustained, investigating whether it was valid.
I agree with that.
I mean, it just seems ridiculous.
I agree with that. I agree with bringing in a completely outside investigation. I agree with Poot on that too.
And again, I think the Attorney General's fault is not asking for some independent. He could have gotten a sheriff's department to it. Leon Lott folks or the sheriff up in Greenville have a very sophisticated sheriff's department. Charleston also. Use them. But SWED is invested in affirming the conviction. They don't want to find any fault. I mean, that's just human nature.
Some have suggested that it may have been a mistake to put Alec on the stand. Any thought to whether you're going to put him on the stand in the retrial?
That's Alex's
Two
choice.
things. One, the client makes that decision. Two, that'll be a game day call. So you'll know when we know.
When will any retrial take place?
I would suspect within a year of now, but not by the end of the year. No, hell no.
And why is that? Why can't you go right?
Alex Murdaugh's defense official statement: will retrial happen by the end of 2026? No. Hell no.
Do you have enough money to hire new experts?
Jim, why don't you explain financially how this works? He's got a much better explanation for this than I do. Go ahead.
I mean, there is no new money, no found
Every single time they get to the money, Poot's like, yeah, Jim, how are we getting paid?
money. And I've said previously, you know, we got paid to do a job. And you do criminal defense work. I mean, one way you do, you charge by the job. Sometimes you come out ahead, and sometimes you come out behind. But, you know, right now,
I mean, unless you're your client always came out ahead when working for clients, didn't he?
we're in the hole, but we got paid to do a job, and we're going to see it all the way through.
You're saying the job isn't finished yet.
Job is not finished yet, and we're not walking away from it. So we're going to see it through. I mean, that's where we are.
Jim, can we talk about new evidence? I know last week you mentioned DNA evidence under Maggie's fingernails, essentially
Right.
connected to a male. Can
They are asking about DNA evidence. We heard about this in the trial.
we go into that a little bit more and how that will play a factor in this retrial?
Well, we pointed out during the last trial that they did find a unknown male DNA who was not related to any Murdaugh or any of Maggie's family under her fingernail. That was, you know, not really followed up on.
It came
We
up in
asked
trial
that
and
they
then
follow
nothing
up
happened
on
with
that,
it.
Before the last trial. We don't have possession of that DNA, so we can't do anything with it.
That's true.
We can perhaps, with a new case, back to square one, go and seek an order from the court to compel them to send it off to CODIS. CODIS is the national DNA database.
If they haven't done so, they should follow up on it.
Jim, you said the lawsuit is about holding Becky Hill accountable and also investigating what you say the state didn't do a good enough job of investigating her. What do you hope that investigation could yield?
The truth.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, just, you know, we don't have a result in mind, but we have a lot of questions that we would like answered. You know, was she a lone wolf? Was she doing it just for the, you know, siren of celebrity, which she definitely was? And then I'll tell you, this removal of the egg lady juror is very suspicious, and that really wasn't a part.
However, there's not much they can do about that now. They can run down the stuff that went on with the egg lady juror in their civil suit, but it doesn't change the result here because the result is new trial.
Part of the case. We do make it a part of our complaint. We point out all of the inconsistencies of what she said, reporting to Judge Newman that the egg lady, Ms. Crosby's ex-husband, had posted something on Facebook, which we now know was a bald-faced lie.
It wasn't him.
Or someone lied to her. I mean,
it wasn't me.
It makes no sense.
Shorty
And
came
if you
in
have
she
questions,
caught me red-handed,
and I would
with the girl
encourage all of you
next
to
door.
follow up with Joe McCullough, who represents Myra Crosby,
Picture this, we were
who can,
okay, Emily.
who is investigating this as strenuously as we intend to do so, and he's been working on it for quite some time. I mean, the way she was targeted, it just
seems
is
weird.
very curious, and we hope to get to the bottom of that.
Who do you think did kill Maggie and Paul?
Poot's so interesting in the way that he reacts sometimes in a split second. The media's question is, who do you think did kill Maggie and Paul? And Poot starts laughing.
I mean, that's not going to happen.
Who do you think did kill Maggie and Paul?
We wish we knew. We think we could have found out if we were.
There are times that Poot gives away more than he thinks he does. Well, there's that.
Had the tools available. I mean, that opportunity was lost when they failed to follow the tire tracks in the grass leading away from the murders of Maggie and Paul. That opportunity was lost when they failed to maintain the integrity of the GPS data on Maggie's phone. Instead, it was at SLED downloading GPS coordinates at SLED that ultimately overwrote where her phone was and when it was on the night of the murders. And when they finally get into Maggie's phone and able to access the GPS data, you know where it said that phone had been last? Broad River Road, SLED Lab. I mean, that is outrageous that was allowed to happen.
I don't disagree with Jim on this. Jim has dialed in his answer. It's getting better. Each time he answers this question, his answer's getting better because it went from we're doing an investigation, we're going to find it, to the opportunity's been lost to figure it out.
What do you think the odds are of Alex getting an acquittal in the retrial?
You,
They
John
think
Monk,
it's good.
are playing those internet betting sites too much. I have no idea.
What is this interaction that's happening right now? What are the chances of getting an acquittal? Shit, is this on Polymarket? Oh, I really hope that there's not a betting market on this.
What do you think the odds are of Alex getting an acquittal in the retrial?
You, John Monk, are playing those internet betting sites too much. I have no idea what his
I'm not
chances are.
playing them at all.
Well, you ought to try.
What do you think the odds are?
We have no idea. I mean, we don't predict football, basketball, or trials.
If you already addressed this, I apologize, but you mentioned new evidence that you're going to bring out. You mentioned DNA found under Maggie's fingernails.
They're asking again about the new evidence. We'll see what he says.
Is there other new evidence?
Well, let me say this. If there is, we tell you, you're gonna, I know you're not doing this intentionally, but you'll be telling them. So I don't think we tell you. How about that?
Fair enough.
Maybe
What in the Poot is Putin? What is Poot doing? Poot, what are you doing with that answer? You like some of these reporters better than others, don't you?
How about that?
Fair enough.
Maybe not unintentional, but never mind. Anything else?
Is there tea? I might hear a kettle starting to boil. There might be tea.
Well, let me say this. If there is, we tell you, you're gonna, I know you're not doing this intentionally, but you'll be telling them. So I don't think we tell you. How about that?
Fair enough.
Maybe not unintentional, but never mind. Anything else?
And then he cuts himself off. Maybe not unintentional. Ooh, whichever outlet that is, what's the beef? This is not specifically to Dick Harpootlian or these attorneys or any attorneys. I think there is potentially a difference here because Dick Harpootlian had such a long political career in addition to his legal career. So there could be, a lot of layers to that, well, I'm definitely going to be unaware of, but there could be a lot more layers to that go beyond this case. But it was just a stark shift. And I imagine Poot plays nicer with some than others. But then again, we all have our favorites, don't we? So I'm curious what the behind the scenes there is. And if it's from the legal side, the political side, or what have you. But Poot just being like, well, if we tell you, then you'll tell them. I mean, unintentionally. Well, maybe not unintentionally. Do you mean that a reporter is going to go and then ask the prosecution, hey, the defense said this, this, and that. Do you have comment? I'm so curious. But anyway, what we heard at the press conference is a mix between we are retrying this case. That was not mixed at all. We are retrying this case. Hell no, no plea deal ever. And we are going to pursue other things in the trial. They talked just a very little bit about their civil lawsuit against Becky Hill and talked a lot about A, we are looking for $600,000, maybe more. B, we want more information about what happened here. And in the areas where I agreed with Dick Harpootlian, he was talking to the press about why is SLED, the agency that's investigating and going to trial with Alex Murdaugh for murder, why is that agency also investigating the jury tampering? Should another agency have been brought in to handle that investigation after the trial was over? Of course, SLED's going to be involved. They were in the courthouse, but also that raises another question for me. Could there be members of SLED that are also witnesses if they were in the courthouse or around the courthouse or helping jurors be transported? Could you end up with a potential conflict there, or at least an appearance of a conflict? And I agree with Poot on that. Why not? If you're bringing in an outside prosecutor, why not bring in an outside agency as well and have them look into it when it is a county official? I'm sure there are other agencies in South Carolina that have some version of a public integrity division or a division that investigates public officials. Just bring them in. I agree with him on that. He also criticized how little information they've gotten about the investigation into Courthouse Becky and the fact that Courthouse Becky has not been prosecuted for the jury tampering. Plaintiff Alex Murdaugh, through his lawyers, brings this civil rights action against Courthouse Beckaboo Hill for the following fuckery. This is a civil rights action pursuant to 42 U.S.C. 1983. This is your deprivation of rights. This is the same code section we are seeing in some of the Karen Reed lawsuits for the investigation. I have not seen this type of deprivation of rights lawsuit in my memory when we're in a retrial. I have seen these more commonly when someone is acquitted, and then generally they go after law enforcement, like we're seeing in the Karen Reed litigation. This is a different type of lawsuit. Becky be up to fuckery. We're suing for the, quote, deliberate and egregious deprivation of plaintiff's constitutional right to a fair trial before an impartial jury, guaranteed by the 6th and 14th Amendments of the Constitution. On March 7th, following a 6-week trial in Colton County, South Carolina, Mr. Murdaugh was convicted of the murders of his wife, Margaret Maggie Murdaugh, and his son, Paul Pawpaw Murdaugh. They left that out, thankfully. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms. May it weigh heavy on his soul. He maintained his innocence then. He maintains his innocence now. Neither Murdaugh nor his counsel at the time of trial knew that Miss Hill, the elected clerk of court, the officer of the court charged as the primary caretaker of the jury, had secretly and deliberately inserted herself into the jury's deliberative processes for personal financial gain. As the Supreme Court of South Carolina has now held, Miss Hill, quote, placed her fingers on the scales of justice. Acting under color of state law, this goes directly to being able to bring the 1983 deprivation of rights action. She is an elected official under the color of state law as an official. She abused the power and authority of her elected office. And Emily, interjection here, she's been convicted, well, she pled guilty to abusing her power in office, not related to this, but related from stealing money. If you are on a civil jury, it does not matter what a dick you think Alex Murdaugh is, because both of them can be wrong. It doesn't mean in this instance, Becky Hill isn't the bigger asshole. And when you get to a civil case, yeah, Alex Murdaugh might have stolen from his clients and this, that, and that. But that doesn't mean it's okay for you, clerk of court, to interfere with the jury as an abuse of your job. Two bad people can still do bad things to each other. And one of them can be right, one of them can be wrong in this civil case. I've not seen this in the circumstance of a retrial being granted. I'm curious how that will go as we go forward. But I'm really curious by this because the Supreme Court of South Carolina said that she did the thing that they're suing her over. They've already said she did this. And that's an interesting posture to be in going into a civil suit when the highest court of the state has already said you did it. On May 13th, 2026, the Supreme Court of South Carolina unanimously reversed Murdaugh's murder convictions and remanded for new trial, holding that Ms. Hill's jury tampering violated Murdaugh's constitutional right to a fair and impartial jury. They say that court was not held on February 20th, which was President's Day. After returning from the holiday, defendant Becky Hill began to enter the jury rooms often. Remember, there were 2 jury rooms, and they allowed the jurors to be in both of them. As the defense began its case, Ms. Hill told the jurors, "Y'all are going to hear things that will throw you all off. Don't let this distract you or mislead you." Additionally, Ms. Hill and juror number 826, the new jury foreperson, on multiple occasions went to another room to have private conversations lasting 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes they would go into the jury room's single occupancy bathroom together. I have so many more fucking questions about this. Immediately after Murdaugh testified, foreperson 826 told the jury that Murdaugh was crying on cue. That's new information to my memory. I don't remember the crying on cue part from the new trial motions, but it's been a minute. She also criticized the former foreperson, juror number 589, for handing Mr. Murdaugh a box of tissues when he was crying on the stand because this is what the defense wants us to do. This interaction between the jurors is interesting. That one juror is telling the jury that Murdaugh's crying on cue, which is also improper. You cannot talk about the case. Let's not forget that the jury is not supposed to talk about the case at all until deliberations. Saying that Murdaugh was crying on cue should have gotten that juror yeeted, unless it happened during deliberation. And if it happened during deliberation, it's interesting that we know about it now, isn't it? On March 25th, 2024, Ms. Hill resigned from office. In May 2024, it was reported that the State Ethics Commission had referred ethics complaints about Ms. Hill for criminal prosecution. And that gets into her son, who is also pending charges on wiretapping. He was the IT director for this county. So there's that. They go through the South Carolina's ruling again, using the words of the Supreme Court to show the reason that they are bringing this case, which is she deprived Alex Murdaugh of his right to a fair trial by an impartial jury, which the Supreme Court said. Following the revelation of Mr. Murdaugh's financial crimes, a South Carolina court placed him in receivership. Mr. Murdaugh had funded his murder trial defense with a $600,000 withdrawal from his 401k. This withdrawal to fund his legal defense was authorized by the court overseeing the receivership. I have beef with that, but whatever. These retirement funds were employer contributions to his retirement account, untainted by any criminal activity, and were his sole remaining asset. Again, the reason he could put so much into his retirement fund is because he was stealing the other money. But they ruled on it, and I can't undo that. Murdaugh spent his entire $600,000 on his trial defense. The South Carolina Supreme Court ruled that Ms. Hill's actions, motivated by her own desire for profit, caused these funds to be lost. That is why they are suing for $600,000. One cause of action, deprivation of rights, depriving Murdaugh of a fair trial, as guaranteed by the Constitution, and seeking $600,000 signed by Philip Barber. I'm not surprised that Barber wrote this. They did a very, very good job, I think, of taking together everything the courts have said and the factual scenario the courts found, streamlining what the courts have found that Becky did, pointing out that the reason this got overturned is because the clerk of court put her fingers on the scales of justice and interfered with the jury. And that has cost Alec $600,000 of a trial that's now been overturned, and he's going to have to do it again. Alex Murdaugh has a very interesting case here because on the civil side of this, there is a loss of money that he has to go through a new trial because of her actions. He's been granted a new trial, which means he is harmed by the waste of that money on the first trial. And Becky Hill is going to have a hard time defending this. I'm really curious to see how this moves forward. Because no matter what you think of Alex Murdaugh, Becky Hill has cost him and the taxpayers of South Carolina quite a lot of money by interceding. And it is undeniable that she interceded. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerdapp.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.